As far as first contacts go, it's usually pretty simple. Well, it's simple for us anyway. We find some primitive society developing on a habitable world, set up an observation station, and wait for them to meet us in the stars. Every once in a while, we come across a generation ship or in-system colony, but a fledgling after their first shaky flight isn't that different from a fledgling about to leap for that first flight. So it's much the same. Except without the very useful cultural data gained from snooping in on them for a few centuries. Still, though, those primitives are usually just a little afraid that we'll be unfriendly and very eager to make friends in the stars. There have been some rocky starts, and maybe one or two little exterminations here and there, but for the most part, it's pretty simple. First contacts with other star nations is a different story altogether. Basically, flip a coin and hope that the other star nation isn't an expanding empire. Thankfully, we've only had to pacify two of those. The other 24 star nations we've met so far have been more than happy to join the grandly named Galactic Union, and have politely refrained that our organization covers less than a quarter of the known galaxy. I assure you, dear reader, that refraining has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that by comparison to us, the other nations are rather primitive. Or at least it shouldn't. There is, as of, about 3 capital rotations ago, a somewhat notable exception to this. That is, of course, due to no fault of my own. I reiterate, I did nothing wrong, and the other party agrees with me. I think. I hope. Anyway, so I was surveying some ruins in the Great Empty when I found a cute little bipedal ape thing contaminating the ruins. Now, I do admit that I raised my crests and shouted just a little to frighten it off, since I thought it was a local primitive, or one from a near system. Instead of running away, it held some kind of device and chattered at me. Well, I shouted just a tiny bit louder, but I just put one of its manipulator appendages up to its sensory organs and chattered some more. Seeing as how the normal ways of dealing with a primitive being where they weren't supposed to be weren't working, I calmed back to the ship. There's a primitive planetside, bipedal apoid, kind of cute. Are you sure this place is uninhabited? I asked. Strangely, it was the XO who answered me. The planet has only some semi-social animals living on it. The being you see is not local. Approach with caution. A bit late, matron. It's chattering at me. So the primitives clearly vocalized for communication. We know. She sounded pained for some reason, so I asked with some apprehension, "What do you mean, you know?" I might have bleated like a hatchling. Just a little. But I swear that the memes the engineers made are exaggerated. Because the ape thing answered. They mean they're talking to my ship. Well, apparently in the time it took for me to come back to the ship we were detected, our computer systems were accidentally breached by their hailing protocols. And they had downloaded and encoded our lexicon into not only their shipboard systems, but sent it to their archaeologist's personal translator. Apparently, these humans can have rather drastic linguistic drift, even in the same language groups, so they'd invented translators before meeting anybody else. I was aware that I might have made an ever-so-slight faux pas. It's not polite to remind a primitive of how primitive they are to their face, after all, especially if they have somewhat advanced computers. Okay, so maybe I might have said some patronizing things to it. Just the usual flattery about braving the void of space and honest praise for their advanced computers. I did not pat it on its head and call it a brave little child. I did not. Not more than once. But really, when you see what they look like, you'll understand that I was momentarily overcome by how adorable it looked. It seemed to be patient and amused with me, so I don't think I started any grudges or anything. Anyway, eventually I asked it why I was investigating the ruins. And it answered, "We're trying to figure out why they wanted to kill us so damn much." They? I asked. Exoskeletons, 4 limbs for manipulation, 4 for locomotion. Most of them came up to about my shoulder. From what we can tell, they ran some kind of vampire economy, going until they met us. That might explain why the ruins get newer the further into the Great Empty we get. Great Empty? I managed to explain that the region we were both in was called that because thus far we'd only found evidence of long-dead civilizations, rather than anything even resembling intelligent life. There is sporadic evidence of interstellar war, but it's limited to a few glassed planets and broken stations. But that wouldn't account for these empty ruins across so many planets, devoid of even corpses. It informed me that when the bugs apparently denuded systems of rare resources behind an advancing wave of conquest, and simply abandoned them to continue extracting newly conquered worlds. Now, you're probably aware that the dead civilization of the Great Empty has been estimated to be at least as advanced as we are, and I had just learned that they weren't quite as dead as we'd realized. At least, not until they tried to kill these adorable humans. So, I get that you're super experienced diplomats and stuff, but try to keep in mind that these guys might have just Xena-sided an expansionist empire, with a technology level roughly equivalent to our own. Don't be fooled by how cute they look. Oh, and also the humans said that they totally forgive me for calling it a primitive, so any bad first impressions are totally not my fault.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching. Everything I used is in the description below. If there's a story you'd like to hear narrated, let me know and I'll reach out to the author and see if we can make that happen. Thanks again. It's a scary world out there, but remember to be brave and look up, to seek the stars.